Oh, good morning, everybody. Thank you all very much for being out here. I want to thank you all for coming to this particular location so that we can take yet another step in what we think is an exciting innovation for our city. In just a couple minutes, we're going to be showing the first fully equipped vehicle with the TSMS, the Taxi Smart Meter System that we actually talked about a few weeks ago. We now are at that stage. We're here at Transco, which is known to some of us, known for years, and I want to thank Jerry and Jeff Schaefer for hosting us here today. This will be one of our installation shops. There will be as many as 12 similar shops, all in the District of Columbia, that are all CBEs, and they will be offering jobs to district residents to be able to move forward with the installation of the new meter systems. VeriFone, by the way, which is our contractor, is relocating its manager, who's in charge of this project, with his family to the District of Columbia. VeriFone is also signed on to our One City, One Hire initiative, working to get people back to work in the District of Columbia. And of course, we'll be giving employment preference to district residents. And we hope that that will allow us, along with other efforts, to continue to bring down our unemployment rate in the city, which now I'm sure everyone knows, with the recent announcement, has gone below 9%. We are 8.9% at this stage. We were one of only three states that actually had a reduction in unemployment in the last data. I think there were 44 states that actually had increases in their unemployment, and then we had 4 that essentially stayed in the same, stayed exactly the same. I think it's worth repeating that the smart meter system is a major upgrade for our taxicab system here, and will bring our fleet into the 21st century and will allow us to compete with other cities. There are a number of people who played a key role in this effort, and I want to thank them. Not everybody will be named because there have been lots of people who worked on this, but first of all, Ron Linton, who's here, who's the chairman of our D.C. Taxicab Commission. Ron, thank you for your work on this. I know we were expecting some of our taxicab commissioners here. If they are here, then you can raise your hand. If you're not, I guess you won't raise your hand. Ralph Burns, Cyril Crocker, Elliot Ferguson, Anthony Muhammad, and Stanley Tapscott, all of whom are part of the Taxicab Commission here in the city. So, oh, Paul. I'm sorry, Paul. Of all the people leave out, Paul Cullen, who's a member, of course, of the Taxicab Commission. Thank you for being out here this morning, Paul. In addition to that, we have, I think, the site development manager, Kayesh Kudus, is here. There he is. Raise your hand. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. And there may be other VeriFone representatives who are here today. Amos Tamam, Jason Gross, and Avi Itchikoff. So we expect to be here, or in fact may be here. I want to point out that this is yet another major step in our effort to modernize the taxicab industry here in the District of Columbia. Some of you know that we worked with the drivers very early on, and we've done things like lift the $19 cap on a trip. There was a point when no matter how far you went, it was going to cost, the fare would have been capped at $19. We permitted a surcharge, recognizing the volatile nature of the cost of fuel in the District of Columbia. And then more recently, we actually raised the fares, giving the cab drivers more of an opportunity to earn more here in the city. We also have established now regulations around vehicle modernization. We've put in place regulations that will phase out all vehicles that are more than 7 years old by 2018. In addition to that, we have committed ourselves. We're moving forward with a one-color scheme. We will probably have some demonstrations on that in the not-too-distant future to give people an idea of what some of the ideas will look like in terms of the one-color scheme. And we also are going to substantially increase the number of wheelchair accessible vehicles as well. And when we finish with all of that, we think we will have a new, modernized 21st century taxicab system here in the District of Columbia. The smart meter system that we are starting to install, will result in people being able to pay with a credit card. We think that not only has value from obviously a technological perspective, but a public safety perspective as well, because it will substantially reduce the extent to which this is a cash system, and will protect not only the passengers, but even more so the drivers, who will be less vulnerable to being robbed by somebody who knows that they're carrying cash. They also will receive an accurate receipt that will be produced by the meters. The passengers, and we announced this before, will be able to review news reports on the monitor that is in the back of the cab. We had quite a discussion about that last time, didn't we, Mark? By the way, your glasses match your tie. Did you realize that?
I do what I can.
And the monitor will give us news reports, weather updates, and other current events on a small monitor that is in the back of the cab. Also, with the push of a button, both the passenger and the driver will be able to alert police or seek medical assistance or other emergency responses, again, simply by pushing a button in the cab. So, with that background having been established, I'd like to ask you all to come over now, and we will demonstrate the installation of the first meter, new smart meter here in the District of Columbia, right behind me here. So I will turn it over to our manager and anybody else who may be involved in this. All right. By the way, just so you know, this is a sheet that is produced by the taxicab meter. And the kind of information that is displayed on here, there's a driver number that will identify who the driver is, the cab number, the date, of course, of the transaction, the time involved in the production, the time of the production of the receipt, the rate, the number of miles covered, the fare. If there's a surcharge, that is added, and there will be a surcharge because I think you know we're moving towards having the taxicab commission completely funded by the surcharges, so it will no longer be a taxpayer supported system here in the District of Columbia. I think the budget now is what, $1 million plus?
Current budget?
Yeah, in the general fund.
2.5.
Okay, $2.5 million. So that will become covered by the surcharge. And then there's a line on it that says tips. And we were watching. Some of you couldn't see it. We were watching how a customer, if you will, a passenger, will be able to select a tip to be able to leave if they so choose. There are several choices there, and of course, in addition to the percentages that are demonstrated, they also can just pick an amount on the in there. Number of passengers, and then this information also will be electronically communicated to our Office of Tax and Revenue, so that we can begin to capture information that we had not been able to capture heretofore. So this is a huge advancement for us, and we're delighted to be able to do it. Again, there are lots of people from out of town who use our taxicab system, and they will be able to use it, of course, and we'll get information, perhaps some of which they get elsewhere, some of which they don't. So it brings us into the 21st century. So let me open it up for any questions that you all may have. Tom?
Mr. Mayor, on the receipt and paying by credit card, if I pay by a credit card, will that system that you have of collecting all the information show that my name, I paid $5 or $10? What kind of information will be
Let me ask Ron and the
What's the
VeriFone
privacy
to
issue
go into
here?
more detail. Okay.
Would you identify yourself, sir?
I'm Ron Linton, Chairman of the DC Taxicab Commission. Tom, no individual name collection is what we get is only the same as it would be with any merchant of record. Whoever's handling the transaction for the credit card, which is our backroom operator, they of course have to know who to charge the account to and who to pay the account to. The Taxicab Commission will not get the names of any individuals. We get only aggregate information.
Thank you.
Further? Tom?
Can you discuss the situation with the hold on the way of paying for the installation and also the appeals before the protest before the Contract Appeals Board and how that could affect or not affect this?
Well, I'll let Ron go into detail, but you know, I don't consider this to be a legitimate hold. I mean, we've had resolutions of disapproval introduced in particular by Mr. Barry on so many different things, and this is another one of those. Some of you probably got a press release asking us to follow the law, and I've been delighted to do that because we followed the law from the very beginning. So we're moving forward. It really is a shame that we are in this situation. Mr. Barry was one of those. I actually had a conversation with him about the fact that we were going to pay for the drivers. We didn't want to put them in a situation of hardship. And some of you may remember the legislative session where he applauded the fact that we were going to do that. It was an idea, by the way, that came from our administration, and I acknowledged it was something he supported. He supported it publicly, and now we're into this, which puts the drivers into a difficult situation. But the CAB, the Contract Appeals Board, has not issued any order that would stay the implementation of this contract, so we're moving on as we said we were going to. We're on a very tight timetable to get this done. It is our intent to have all of the cabs equipped over the next 90 plus days, and in order to be able to do that, we have to move on the schedule that we established. Alan?
Mr. Berry essentially accused you of having a backroom plan, a secret plan to end up charging drivers for these meters. That's to say that you completely dispute that, call it baloney. I think Mr. Berry
I think that's absolutely ludicrous. And while you ask the question, you must know it's ludicrous also. We have no back room, front room, sidewalk, alley plan of any kind to do anything. We said we would pay for the drivers, and if Mr. Barry would lift his resolution of disapproval, this would be taken care of in the manner that had been intended in the first place. And he knows this because I told him directly. I had a direct conversation with Mr. Barry about this.
His response?
He supported it. All you got to do is go back and look at the tape at the legislative session, where actually at that session he not only said he supported it, but he said it was his idea, which it wasn't. Sam?
So what happens though? I mean, I saw the press release from the Taxicab Commission. It essentially said the drivers are still responsible, and basically they got to pay until this is resolved. What's the deal?
Tom, the question was a release or a notice from the Taxicab Commission alerting the drivers to the situation, advising them that they would be responsible for paying until we resolved it. The answer is, Sam, is that we're looking at ways that we can resolve it, and we believe that we can resolve it, and that ultimately, before all the installation is even a quarter done, we will have figured out how this is going to be paid for the drivers.
Meantime, they have to pay? Is that
in the interim, they have to pay, yeah.
What's their reaction to that?
We got to talk to them.
I think the question for me was, why do we have to go through this? This is a city trying to modernize this taxicab industry. It has made a commitment to pay for this. The council has supported this. The council member who now is involved in this was a person who stood up publicly and said, I support this, attempted to lobby me to do this when I said you don't have to do that because we're already doing it. So that's the question I think you ought to ask them. Why are we into this?
Why do you think we're in?
I don't know. I think you need to ask Mr. Barry. I think for this to become the story is unconscionable. This ought to be the story about a city trying to modernize its taxicab industry, the steps that we have taken and the steps that we are continuing to take and will take in the future. That ought to be the issue at this stage, not this nonsense.
Mr. Mayor, what assurance can you give to the cab drivers who might be in the position right now shelling out some of their own hard-earned money? Can you promise them that you get reimbursed once this is lifted?
I'm going to ask Ron again to address that.
If we're put into that position by Mr. Berry's action, that'll be the direction we take. In the meantime, let's see what happens in the next week and whether or not the resolution is lifted.
So you have an assurance, you're telling cab drivers, go ahead, get them installed. If you can shell out, we'll reimburse you down the road?
That's the city's plan.
Okay. And can you speak to how many meters are ready to be installed right now? I just talked to a Transco rep. They said they have 5 meters. I mean, are more coming?
Well, it starts slowly. Probably over the next 2 weeks, it will only be about 150, and then it will ramp up as we add the new shops. Once we add the new shops, it'll climb to somewhere near 100 a day, and we expect to be done by late November.
Let me remind people that it's the media. The media will get to ask questions and make comments. The rest of you, we appreciate you being here to see this, but only the media. Peter?
Mr. Mayor, with Ray Razor with the Braille Monitor. I'd like to know.
I actually called on somebody else. I'll come back to you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I spoke with Councilmember Berry yesterday, and he raised concerns about CBEs. And in the emergency legislation that was passed, there was no CBE contract. There was also emergency legislation, which is slightly unusual for a contract of this scale. And now you're saying today there are, and Schaefer qualifies in CBE. Can you speak to that?
Well, there will be 12 CBEs, Peter.
All the shops that will be used will be CBE qualified. They will be located in the district, and they will be minority owned.
One more question. Can you move forward? Isn't one of the reasons that people voted for the contract that drivers don't have to pay out, and now you're saying drivers may have to pay out? Isn't that something different?
Yes, it is, but you have to talk to Mr. Berry about that.
A hold on the contract. Why are you then moving forward with a different? Isn't it different if drivers have to pay out?
He's not putting a hold on an amendment to the contract, not the contract. Everything we're doing is completely legal. It's been agreed to by the lawyers on both the protester side and our side and the CAB. We're not doing anything that is not legal.
I think those questions ought to be put to him, to be honest with you. And I'm assuming that you all will. This is a good thing for the city. It will create jobs. It will put taxi cab drivers in a position, frankly, to be able to make more revenue than what they're doing now. This is, I see you, Tom. This is something where is a win for the city. So why anybody would want to stop this is absolutely beyond me, especially somebody who just a few weeks ago purported to be in full support of the city paying for the drivers to have the installation. There will be jobs created, CBEs will be involved in this, etc. Last question, Tom.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to hear, if possible, from Mr. Tapscott, a member of the commission, a cab driver for 1 or 2 years, about what all of this means for the cab drivers. We've seen demonstrations, we've seen protests, we've seen some support. Could we hear from the commission member, Mr. Tapscott?
Yeah, if that being the case, come on up, Stanley.
He's only been a cab driver 1 or 2 years.
Really? I thought he'd been a cab driver for much longer than that. You know, since we're going to have him, well, why don't we get, where's Paul Cone? He's here. We got another taxi. Where'd he go? He just left. He just left. Well, that was timely. Where's
Elliot Ferguson.
Yeah, where's Ellie? Ellie, come on up. That's right, you'd be perfect for this.
And you're on the commission, and what you think about the whole changes and the fears that cab drivers have?
Yeah, well, my name is Stanley Tapscott. I served about 9 years on the commission previously, and I was reappointed in May. And
how long have you been a driver or in the business?
I've been a driver for close to 50 years.
All right, so go ahead.
You know, I talk to drivers, and I do represent drivers, and I can say that there's quite a bit of unrest in the drivers. They feel that some of the things that's going to happen is going to put them out of business, whether it does or not, or whether I agree with them. But I think we need to orientate the drivers a lot more because they are the ones that's involved in it. There's so much rumors going on, like the barrier situation. I didn't know about that until this morning myself. So there's so many rumors going on, and there's so many cab drivers. You tell one, and when it goes a little bit further, it blooms to that nobody's understanding. So I would really like to see the cab drivers more orientated into this.
Thank you.
Just to augment what Stanley said, let me underscore something also, and that was the things that we did in the early going clearly were to the benefit of the drivers, and that add a surcharge to the fare. Secondly, to lift the cap of $19 on the limit to be paid for a particular ride or no matter how far you go. And then thirdly, the increase in fares. I don't think anybody could make any argument that that is anything but to the benefit of the drivers. Now we will continue to work with the drivers, of course, to make sure they're oriented. But it's a classic situation of change. This is a sea change, and frankly, it's long overdue in terms of a sea change. But we're not going to hurt the drivers in the course of this. I don't know how anybody could rationally construe that this is an effort to put drivers out of business. It absolutely is not. I think it's an effort to modernize the industry. I'm going to ask Elliot Ferguson, who's with Destination D.C., to come up. He's on the commission as well.
Absolutely. Good morning. From the standpoint of visitors coming to Washington, D.C., and the perception of this change to the industry, it's extremely important to us. As we compete against first-tier cities around the world and around the country, this is something that has been missing and has been somewhat of a black eye for us as a destination. And so this change and the comments that the mayor has made and others have made in terms of the positive impact on the industry, I certainly support that, as does this industry, because it's really important that we have a modernized system and an easy system for individuals to come into Washington and not have to deal with cash when they're in Washington, D.C. So I definitely support it, and certainly am happy to see that this day has finally come.
We have one other driver who is here too, Anthony Muhammad, who is the most recent appointee to the taxicab driver. Mr. Muhammad is also an A&C commissioner here in the city, and I'll ask him to come up and say a few words. Commissioner?
Double commissioner. Well, I was a A&C commissioner, but I had to resign because I moved from where I lived at. And I'm not a A&C commissioner yet, but I will become another one in another A&C commission. So in AE, where Sandra Segrist was, who is not running again. Yes, we support the modernizing of the cab companies, and we would also like to have some more options, because we talked about getting some one-year inspections, because they're going to have new vintage law, one-year inspections. Also, getting the cab drivers to be able to tint half of their windows where they couldn't do this before. So we're going into the 21st century full speed ahead. Thank you.
All right. And that, as we said, that's the last question on that. That's if it's on the same thing?
No.
Well, I'm going to go to the next topic, if it's okay, Ben. Okay. We're going to go to the next topic. Thank you very much. Yes. All right, today we're celebrating what would have been, and hopefully some of you know this already, what would have been Chuck Brown's 76th birthday. And in his honor, I am proclaiming today as August 22nd, 2012, as Chuck Brown Day in the District of Columbia. Many of you know Chuck was a personal friend of mine. And for those of you who knew him, you know that Chuck was an absolute joy. Very humble man, one of the most talented musicians I have ever met in life, but somebody who, despite the worldwide fame that he achieved, he was always Chuck. And everybody loved Chuck. His wife, Jocelyn, is here today. I think at least one of his, we hope both of his sons would be Nikos and Wiley. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. And daughters KK and Sharita also are here. And where's Tom Goldfogel? Where's Tom? Tom was Chuck's manager, longtime manager, and what a great guy. He and Chuck had a great relationship, such as I know. And Tom, we want to thank you for being here and for everything that you have done. I'm not going to read all the whereases, and I'm going to present this to Chuck's widow. But the punchline, so to speak, says, "Now therefore I, the mayor of the District of Columbia, do hereby proclaim August 22nd, 2012 as Chuck Brown Day in Washington, D.C., and call upon all the residents of this great city to join me in recognizing his contributions and achievements to music and to celebrate what would have been his 76th birthday here in the District of Columbia." So please join me in a salute to Chuck and appreciate the family who's joined us here today.
We, the Brown family, would like to give thanks to the mayor and the city and all y'all for all your support throughout the years for my husband and his career. And we can't wait to the groundbreaking. And we're looking forward to everything. And we're thankful and we're approved of everything that the mayor has chosen. And we thank you all for everything.
We'd invite any of the other family members, his children, or Tom, would you like to say something? Come on, Tom. You were his longtime manager.
Just, anything that recognizes Chuck's great contributions to the city and is something that the fans can support. And we're hopeful that Chuck Brown Park will be a place where residents of D.C. can go to remember the lifetime of memories that they shared together through 4 decades of Chuck performing for the city and the love affair that he had with his fans and they had with him. And we're just looking forward to seeing the park. Thank you.
All right. That's a good nexus. We want to be able to make sure that generations in the future will be able to remember who this man was. I mean, today we can't believe that there would be a possibility that people wouldn't know who Chuck Brown was. But the day will come when we have children who are unborn, when we have children who are very young who will say, who was Chuck Brown? And some of you will remember that in May, I sent legislation to the council requesting that we name a park in the city for Chuck Brown. And I would say I'm confident in his passage because I knew Mr. Barry was a big fan of Chuck Brown, but I don't know. I'm not going to venture out on that one at this stage. We hope that this goes through unimpeded. In any event, we have selected a portion of Langdon Park in Ward 5 to be renamed Chuck Brown Memorial Park. The location is bordered by 18th, 20th, Franklin, and Hamlin Streets. We thought this portion of the park would be a fitting tribute to Chuck because of the neighborhood's use and amenities, especially the amphitheater in the park, which already is an amphitheater, but we're proposing to redo that. We plan, of course, some further renovations that will be a part of this effort, and then we hope that by designating this area of Langdon Park, it will symbolize Chuck's connection to the city. We all remember Chuck's music, right? How many remember Bustin' Loose? Wasn't that one of your favorite songs, Mark? Back It On Up, and so on and so forth. Remember the Woody Woodpecker song? Chuck was the only one to turn that one into a hit, right? And so many other songs. So again, we wanted to demonstrate today, these are conceptual drawings of what we hope to be in the Chuck Brown Park. As you can see, we've got an indication of it in this one to my right, to your left. Chuck Brown Memorial Park, the amphitheater, where we hope aspiring musicians will come and be a part of this, and some of our young people will find a safe haven to come and be a part of a good time, especially during the spring and summer months. And then this is another view. These are all renderings. We've not made any final decisions yet. we've had some input, a lot of input so far from Chuck's family, but there will be more as we go along, so that when we get to the finish line, this will be something that we will have done together with his family to memorialize one of the greatest Washingtonians ever. And by the way, I just heard that, I didn't know this, that Chuck Brown was a cab driver at one point. So what a nice nexus. That was a complete coincidence. All right, so we'll take any questions that you all may have.
10 minutes of general questions. 10 minutes.
On this? Let's do on this first. Let's do on this. Any questions on the Chuck Brown Memorial? Okay. Thank you all. Well, hold on. I'm not going anywhere, Ben. Hold on. Thank you all. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mark.
As you well know, the Democratic Convention starts in about a week. 4 times, last time was 2000, the word statehood was in the party platform. I understand that you spoke to the chair of the platform committee, Mayor Cory Booker, who told you that he didn't know if it was in the platform. Will it be in the platform? And what's your reaction? And second, you and Anita Bonds, the chairwoman of the Democratic Party, wrote Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chair of the DNC, about Eleanor Holmes Norton speaking. She's spoken at the last conventions I've gone to. They published a list. Governor O'Malley is speaking. Governor Kane is speaking. But right now, when I spoke to Congresswoman Norton, she's not listed to speak. What's your reaction to the DNC and the Obama administration, who's guiding the convention, to the jurisdiction that 76% are Democrats, no other jurisdiction is like that, and 93% of the voters of this district voted for Barack Obama. What's your reaction to these two actions?
Well, first of all, Mark, I hope everybody knows my absolutely unwavering 100% support for our district to become the state of New Columbia. We have 618,000 people who live here. We pay federal taxes just like everybody else. We send our sons and daughters and relatives off to fight in these wars, ironically enough, for democracy in other countries that don't have what we have in this country, except for the District of Columbia. Yeah, we don't have it in our own nation's capital. So the first point, let me underscore, is that I obviously heartily support statehood for the city. And I believe, and I've said this to Mayor Booker, that the issue of statehood should be addressed in the affirmative in the platform of the Democratic Party. As you know, it was in there in 2000, and then for some reason unknown to me, it was not in there in 2004, not in 2008, but it should be restored in 2012. We are working with this situation. Congresswoman Norton, I was happy to sign a letter along with the chairman of our party here in the city, Anita Bonds, requesting of Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz for her to be able to speak. And of course, she would speak about autonomy, and she would speak about self-determination for the District of Columbia. I have not seen the final list. You probably have, but she should be on that list because she should be given an opportunity to speak on behalf of 618,000 people here in the city.
What are you prepared to do if statehood is not in the platform? There is an avenue. Do you plan, which is getting 20% of the signatures of the platform drafting committee and taking it to the floor? Is your ardor great enough, and is the delegation great enough to make this a floor vote on this issue?
Well, I intend to talk to our chairman, Anita Bonds, today, because obviously we would need the party involved in this, but it is something I believe should be done, Mark. This only comes around every 4 years. We should seize every opportunity, reasonable opportunity we have before us to advance the cause of the people who live in the District of Columbia. So I will be fighting the fight. You know, just a little over a year ago, I, along with 40 other people, I was arrested for protesting the lack of self-determination here in the city. One of my points was to send a message that I am absolutely unwaveringly committed to this, and I will continue to be. And if that's what we have to do, I'm working to convince our delegation to join me in doing that.
Mr.
Mr. Mayor, on a related topic, yesterday the Republican platform adopted a no autonomy for the district, and they also recommended that the district's gun laws be liberalized to allow more people to carry weapons. What's your response to the decision by the Republican Platform Committee?
Well,
as well as also, I vividly remember writing a blog post that said you had planned to go to the Republican convention to press for statehood at the Republican convention. That's next week. Are you still going? If not, why?
I'm not going at this stage because it would be 2 full weeks that I would be out. I'm going to the Democratic convention and realizing now what we had before us is going to take a lot of my time. I didn't think we would have to wage this kind of fight at our own Democratic convention, but the amount of time that's going to be consumed there will be quite substantial to fight this. So I will not be at the Republican convention. It is very disappointing, Tim, to learn that they have taken that position. I think that is undemocratic. It is not consistent with the principles upon which this nation was founded. We all know that. Taxation without representation was a fundamental principle upon which this nation was founded. And it's really very, very disappointing to see that a platform of a political party in this nation would take that position on the District of Columbia. With respect to guns, it seems to me we had a prima facie case of that last week when the person who went into the Family Research Council had bought a gun within a matter of days in another state, a neighboring state in Virginia, and was able to come in the District of Columbia and use that gun. I want to commend, and we're going to do something for him later, Leo Johnson, who is the building operations manager at the Family Research Council, for his heroism, because he stopped what otherwise could have been an untold number of casualties as a result of the weaponry that this man was able to bring into that building. He himself got shot, shattered the bone in his arm, but he saved just any number of lives. We'll never know the number that he saved. But I think, again, with respect to guns, it's an indication of why we need gun control laws and why the District of Columbia ought to be respected in terms of our choices that we make, like other states, around controlling guns in the city.
Well, the argument from the right goes that maybe if more people had guns, maybe it wouldn't take the security guard, maybe it would take the secretary could also have stopped the assailant. What do you make of that basic fundamental argument?
I don't buy that. And frankly, I look at the, we are on course right now to have the lowest number of homicides in the District of Columbia since we began recording data on this decades ago. We could wind up at the end of this year. We could wind up with fewer than 100 homicides, which would be far superior to other jurisdictions that do have far more liberal gun laws than we do. I don't think a credible case can be made for the relaxing of gun control laws in the city.
Well,
Tim, we got to move around.
But
okay?
it's directly related to what you just said.
I'm sorry.
It's directly related to what you just said, so I could just please ask this question. Although homicides are declining, there does seem to be that there have been several pretty violent attacks. The most recent one was in Columbia Heights over the weekend that left a young man perhaps in a coma. And there seems to be an increase in robberies and other kinds of street crimes that has a lot of people really concerned about the basics of public safety in the district. What are you doing to address that? Is that a priority? And what do you tell residents who are worried about, to walking home in the evening, that they may be jumped or mugged or otherwise injured?
Yeah, and I don't want to connect that to gun control laws, Tim. No, there's no way that you can make that connection.
It's not connected to gun control laws.
But I just want to make sure, since the question followed that other discussion.
It's connected to what you said about a decline in homicides. Although homicides may be at historic lows, there are these other crimes that very much affect the quality of life of residents in the district.
And we are concerned, of course. And one of the things that we will do, the chief has put in place all hands on deck, which has now been in place for several years. We know that that has an impact on crime. The chief mentioned yesterday that when we have all hands on decks, we've seen events. We have seen a 10 to 15% reduction in crime in the city. In addition to that, the chief has done a great job in redeploying resources, additional officers, for example, to areas where we've seen an increase in crime. Obviously, the situation that happened up near Eastern Market was a horrific tragedy. And we're going to focus a couple of things, obviously, and that is apprehending the culprit who did this, and then secondly, trying to add more resources into that area so that we can protect people. We've had spikes before. We probably will have them again. But the important thing is to be able to respond quickly and affirmatively to bring down something so it doesn't become a chronic situation. Austin, here and here. Okay.
So Councilmember McDuffie sent you 2 letters regarding the streetcar barn, which is going just down the road from here. Have you considered maybe moving the site away from Spingarn High School to another one of the sites that were looked at?
Well, we work very closely with Councilmember McDuffie, but I haven't seen a proposal yet that is superior to that one.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question about DYRS. We indicated in our report the agency left hundreds of its youths in the community and then didn't even service many of them. Now 15 of them have been murdered. Another 15 have been charged with murder. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I don't think you added all the information, because some of this dates back, right? I don't know if this includes 2012 at all, Ben. I'm going to ask Neil Stanley if he would come up. But this is a program that was in place when we got here. I think, frankly, being able to provide mentors and support for young people is a good thing, but it must be done in a responsible and safe way. And I think if you look at the revisions, the changes that have been made in the program and the results in 2012, and we're now almost 8 full months into 2012, it'll be clear that we're moving in a better, let me finish. We're moving in another direction, in a better direction, with the results being the barometer of that. I'm going to ask Neil if he would step up and talk a little bit about specifically to the question that you asked.
Thank you, Mayor Gray. You know, DC Youth Link is part of an overall comprehensive strategy that we have to effectuate public safety as well as youth rehabilitation. And as the mayor indicated before, there are a series of measures that the city has taken. And you know what? It's working. And here's how I know it's working. From January to August of last year, there were 8 DYRS young people who were either victims or alleged perpetrators of homicide. That number in 2012, which was not in the report, is 0. Again, from January of 2012 to right now, there are 0 DYRS young people who are either victims of homicide or perpetrators of homicide. I think that's a critical point. And it's a critical point because the follow-up question to that is, why are those numbers apparent? They're apparent because we're much more dedicated, much more serious, much more transparent, and we're holding folks accountable. And so the DC Youth Link initiative that the mayor talked about, with mentors, with job skills training, with life skills training, with substance abuse programs, with GED programs, is part of our strategy for keeping young people actively engaged and out of trouble. And in addition to the homicide data that I wanted to share with you, it's also important to know that our rearrest rates are down by 32%, and our violent felonies of DYRS kids are down by 21%. So the notion that DC Youth Link or our strategies aren't working simply do not bear out when you look at the data. So yes, there have been some instances in the past where getting this initiative off the ground was a bit challenging, but as the mayor indicated, since 2011 we've been working very hard to put a series of policy changes in effect, and that's why we're getting the positive results that we have right now. So the last thing I'd like to say about this is that we've hired additional overview staff. We're conducting more reviews of audits, and we're doing much more in-depth reviews of case files as well. This is a good system. It's not perfect, but we're taking measures along the way to recalibrate it and make sure that the results that we have right now continue to grow.
Well, first of all, I think the additional staffer that you hired was Lewis Henderson, who himself was under investigation for misusing funds, and I spoke to the city auditor's office, and they told me that that investigation was never completed, and you still hired him to monitor this program. Second of all, I would say that if you're going to argue that homicides are down, you should also include the fact that there are many fewer youths in the program now than there were last year. So you'd expect homicides.
Even when you discount for
I didn't interrupt you. I'd also like to add that if you look at the rearrest rates in the first report that you released and the most recent report, the difference is about 2%. Finally, I would like to know why, over a course of weeks, I requested interviews with you, and the most you would agree with was to an off-the-record, no cameras allowed briefing, which then you didn't even show up to yourself. But wait, during that meeting, your chief of staff, who did show up, mentioned, and this was one of the little nuggets that I could take and put on the record, that no money was ever paid out without documentation. I now have documents to show that that is simply false.
After his response, just 2 more questions.
Ben, let me just say this, okay? If you have additional information that would benefit us improving the program, we'd be happy to have that. To the extent you know, my whole background, frankly, has been spent in human services and working with young people. This is a program that it's quite seriously when we came in. Director Stanley has talked about the data that demonstrate an improvement. If there are ways that we can continue to improvement, please work with us. Please give us the information you have, and I promise you we will continue to effectuate improvement. Excuse me?
It's all on the web, Mr. Mayor. You can read it.
Well, fine. Okay. If you've got something that we don't have, would you give it to us?
It's all public already.
Well, if there's anything that you have, I'll say it again, if there's anything you have that would be beneficial to the city, just do the responsible thing and give it to us.
Going forward.
Thank you, Ben. Mark.
Mayor Gray.
And then Mark, and then Matt. And that's it.
Mayor Gray, have you talked to the Nationals and/or Metro about extending hours during night games, particularly going in possibly the playoffs?
No. Actually, if you had been at our press briefing yesterday on the announcement of the task force in Bloomingdale and Leroy, I did mention that I was asked that yesterday. I have not talked directly with them. I think City Administrator Liu, we're very excited, as you can imagine, that our team has done as well as it has. The best record in baseball at this stage, and I'm not sure when Washington last had that distinction, maybe never, to be honest with you. But we'll look forward to working with them. We'll be happy to sit down with them to make sure that the playoff experience is as successful and as convenient as possible, you know, for the people of this city and others who come here.
I know you were optimistic at the beginning of the season. Are you surprised at this point in the season how well the Nats are doing?
Just so you know, I was at a dinner 2 months before the season started, and my prediction was that the Nationals would win 90 games. They will win more than 90 games, I think, but no, I'm not surprised at all. And the reason why I say that is because I recognized, as a lot of people do, they had a superb pitching staff coming into the season. I think in particular Mike Rizzo and Davey Johnson have done a phenomenal job, the on-the-field manager and the general manager, putting this team together. In fact, Mike Rizzo mentioned to me, even before the season starts, that the rating, those who rate the quality of the systems now, have the Nationals at the top of the list as the #1 farm system in baseball, which means they will have a continuing players coming through their system. I think the team now. I could talk about an hour, Mark.
Did you ask about Metro fans?
Matt, you're going to have the last word.
Just going back to the street robberies issue, because I have to tell you, people are coming up and talking to me about it all the time, and folks are worried. And I heard you say Chief Lanier is doing a great job, but some folks who are constantly looking over their shoulders, even in some of the best neighborhoods throughout D.C., are really worried and wondering, can there be something done to stop this? You say all hands on deck, but is there anything else that you can direct the chief to do to deal with these, to put these to a stop?
Well, let us have a special discussion on this when, you know, Deputy Mayor Quander is back, and the chief, of course, is here, and we'd be happy to talk with you for those things that we can discuss. Obviously, there's some things that we would do that would compromise our ability to fight crime in the city, Matt, and I know you can understand why we wouldn't talk about those things. But don't forget that one of the commitments I made, and we're still in the course of it, is that we would bring on board 300 new police officers as well, which will result in a net increase in the number of officers that we have available on the streets. We are as concerned as anybody about this. We are as serious as anybody about this, and we will continue to take steps to be able to address this, because if people don't feel safe, then they're not safe. Thank you all very much.